Hey, can you guys hear me all right? Hey, can you guys hear me all right? Alright, so on today's show of compiling with Cobryis, we will not be compiling so much, hopefully. Right now, Midair is sort of a messy build. So I have a huge list of things I've been wanting to do, and I'm just gonna do this on stream while talking to you guys. How many viewers? I can't see that, can I? So what we want to do is figure out why we can't hear this music. Music down, mic up. How about now? Is this good? All right, game's running. So today I wanted to look into moving, let me pop this list up real quick. Alright, so I'm going to review real quick several tasks, what they are, how they're relevant to the game, to the project. These are called tech debt missions. As I said at the start of the stream, the project is a bit of a mess right now. And this is because we were trying to get ready to show for a Kickstarter, fix issues that are relevant to like showing off the game. We're playing, and when you do something like that, when you focus on like the short term, you obviously lose long-term benefits, like building classes, building objects that will support future features, and just support smoother development in the future. So one thing is clean up local message system. So in Unreal, they have something called a local message, and that is basically, it means localized message. And what a localized message is it's basically a text that's expected to be used in different languages. So say I send a localized message for like hello, then when the local message is received on a Spanish client, it would say hola or whatever. And that's because these aren't, like, we're not passing a message someone typed, but we're passing like a pre-configured message. So this kind of ties into VGS for right now. It ties in more specifically to game events, like when things happen in the game. So if you look at MA game message. So right now, here's a bunch of, they're not localized yet, but that's what this would support in the future, is once we add localization. I'm actually gonna turn off the music because this really annoys me every so often. Unless it stops after the first few times, we'll see. We'll turn it off if it continues. So the reason this system is messy, in my opinion, is that it's inconsistent in its implementation, and more so in how it's used in blueprints. So let's say we're going to broadcast that the game started. So we do broadcast localized, the U game message static class, we're basically just passing the class. And we're passing an enum that'll be converted to an integer that represents which message index it is. Okay, so let's broadcast localized, see what happens here. If else clients receive localized message, client received localized message implementation. Alright, so this is now in the engine side of things. You can tell by the file path or the lack of a midair prefix, or just by the sheer volume of code. Anyway, once it receives a message, it takes that static class, it gets the default object for it, and it calls client receive on it. Okay, so that's going to call client receive on our game message right here, client receive. So it comes in with all this data, and then we decide what to do with it here, and then we pass it to blueprint. So we can ignore this for now. This is just when it's, we also put a message in the chat box, which is different. All right, so if actually these are special cases. We want to look at the generic implementation in MA local message client receive. Okay, if it's a demo, we ignore it. A demo, well, a demo that's fast forwarded. We create this new class that we send to the HUD. All right, so a message comes with an index, which was that enum we had earlier. So how do we get back to a message comes with an index. We're going to pass that index to get widget name. We're going to ask what's the name of the widget that we want to put this message in. This isn't currently used specifically for game messages. Instead, if the message object is a game message, it returns in a game message. It returns specifically game event messages. So it doesn't matter what the index is. So what we do is then we go to the local message widgets and find that widget name, and we're going to pass the message to that. So that's where this goes in Blueprint. Let's go to HUD, game event messages. So actually, they don't exist, Tyler Market, and you're not real either. Alright, so let's look at this. So here is the event that got called. Receive local message. We call add message, which is a Blueprint native event. So basically it'll get called in Blueprint first. It's okay, Tyler Market. Nobody's real. So this is ugly. You can ignore all this basically for now. But what we do with this message information is we dissect it to figure out like what the message color should be for the player based on what team they're on, or if they're spectating, or if they're if they're spectating a specific player. We update the flag state, which isn't ideal, and then we finally create the widget and throw it up there. So why is this bad? It's bad because I guess it's bad because I skipped over a part of this. It's bad because of the way we get the message, and the way we color it and whatnot. We don't currently, like, we just set a, there's no way to like decorate a string, a message, a text with different colors like you would with an HTML document or something, or where you like put brackets and change the color of specific parts of it. So we can't like, I have to color the message just one entire color, which I try to do my best to like say red is bad, green is good, or if you don't care about teams, then blue and red based on the team. And that's what all this is, and it's really ugly, and it's really dumb, because ideally we would want to color like specific parts of the message. And that isn't really supported here, like, because it doesn't know how to color it. And if we go back to the MA game message, I mean, these messages are really generic and not well documented. So when you're calling these messages, you have to know which place the player state needs to be for it to be the correct player. Like if there's two players relevant to an event, I made a death message. A death message is even more confusing. So this task is basically to make this whole system less confusing, to make it more straightforward, to make it actually take advantage of localization. Like there's not some magical thing that allows us to translate, but we need to set that up for the future, and right now it completely ignores it. Like we're using the right class, I guess. Although there is the issue that we have to create a custom class for death messages because it doesn't allow a third player state in the team. And there's other issues where we should or shouldn't be passing some like specific thing, like the flag or the team. Like, should those be passed with the message, or can those be figured out on the client side without those being passed? Alright, so another task I wanted to look into was clean up and organize collisions. We have weird collision issues. I'll point one out right now that should be obvious if it shows up well on stream, and that I do not know. Yeah, let's Mr. Gorbachev, put up this wall. Alright, so we shoot the chain gun. It goes basically straight where we're looking, right? Down the crosshair. Now what happens right here? Do you see that? The bullet goes off to the left. It's not going down the center of the crosshair, it's going to the left. Let me pull up my stream so I can see if you guys can see it. Yeah, so you can see that. So bullet goes to the left. It doesn't go straight. What the heck is happening? Like, that's such a weird bug, right? Like right there, look at that. That's the bullet's so far away from where I'm pointing. So what's happening here is the convergence of the weapon when fired, like where it thinks you want to shoot. So the guns don't just, in video games, guns don't just shoot straight out from the center of your eyes, like where your crosshair is. And they also don't just shoot out of the gun model. What you do is something that is a mixture of like where the player's looking and where the gun model is, so that you can give the player what they think is the most accurate shot they can take. Or something that is more accurate to the, something that's accurate to the shot that they want to take. A lot of games is about player perception. So when we fire a projectile, weapon, fire, what we do is we compute convergence using a line trace for collision damage. Okay. So anything that we can damage, we line trace. If we hit something we can damage, then we basically have that converge with the crosshair and set up a rotation that shoots the projectile towards that you were aiming at. Now this isn't like auto aim or something like that. This is just keeping the bullets centered on the crosshairs, because if you're like point blank to a wall, like if you're right up to a wall and you don't have this on, when you would shoot, it wouldn't hit the center of the wall, it'd hit to the right maybe. Actually, I don't even know if that applies to that specifically, but it applies to characters. So what's happening with the flag is probably, I haven't actually ever looked at this, but that's why this task exists. Now this is a small example of what I feel are multiple problems with collisions. We also have like inconsistent collision on client and server because of the way, I need to disable this. The way, like we have colliders all over this model. The animations though are not synchronized between the server and client, so you end up getting like an inconsistent collision on this. Like a player could be standing on it and is not moving how you would expect. Like they start teleporting and glitching about. And say you try to shoot someone through it and you can't because that was not accurate. There are other scenarios where like we use collisions to determine like an area you can place like deployables. Like this sphere right here is saying you can't place deployables right that close to this inventory, which is pretty actually dumb in general, just because like what if there was a wall right here if you wanted to place it on the other side of the wall, because that doesn't take into account the travel time it would take the player to get around. It would feel kind of wrong if you couldn't place it there, but it's simple for now. And like when setting these collisions up, it gets really confusing. Like, oh, did I like which of these collision? Where is this? Deployment zone, inherited, collision presets, custom. Which of these do I enable? And in fact, you can see here, I don't enable any of these. I just use this sphere, and I should uncheck this because, and this is something that needs to be caught during this pass, but I just decided that I would just calculate if it was within the range, because it's the same as sphere collision. But maybe I should enable it, but like it can't be, like if I enable a collision with damage, when I shoot it, the bullet will disappear like right here, like an invisible shield. So these are issues that we need to like lock down. We need to have like maybe a documentation on how to go about setting up collisions. Maybe not adding them willy-nilly. Let's look at all the collision data. We have like these assist collisions that have been problematic at times. And Mabel was pretty smart, and I did the same thing, where he set the initial response to be ignored. So that avoids some issues if you keep that in mind when setting these up. But like, what's a projectile shootable? Why is that a object channel and this is a trace channel? What does damage upon mean? These are all things we need to get wraps on. Organized class declarations. Okay, so I'm sure this is a fun stream. You guys need to be talking to me if you want to make this more fun. And my cat, I tried to entice her to come in here, but she was not interested. So another thing we want to do is organize class declarations. Let's look at MA character. This class is a mess. This area is not too bad, but we just have things thrown in here disorganized, like public, protected, private, public, public, protected, public, protected, protected, public, and so on. Like it's just, what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Like, is there any organization? And the truth is, usually what happens is when we're adding new things to like the character or to any class, and class, by the way, isn't like character class, like what, like light, medium, heavy, but it's like object class, just what type of object anything is in the game. And usually what I do, and I'm sure a lot of programmers do this, is just find what seems like the best place and add it. like, and then forget about it. And then you start to get like things that could have gone somewhere else because you just found that the class is huge, so you didn't look very long. You just threw it in the first place you thought was decent. And then also on top of that, and then inmate character, the CPP file where all these things, like where all the code is that drives these behaviors, that's also disorganized and doesn't match up with the header file with the class definition, or declaration, I mean. So, we want to make it so that these classes are more manageable. Like if I want to find something, I don't know what specifically it is. Like if I go and look at the header file, I should not be like, oh, a bunch of properties I don't care about. Oh, there's some functions, properties, functions. Like it should be a lot cleaner. It should be maybe commented, like saying like, oh, this is where all of, like, these are all and these are actually more specifically component accessors, like something like that, that makes it clear where you should put something if you, at a glance, if you scroll through the class. And another thing is some of this stuff might be unnecessary. Like we just need to re-investigate whether or not something is needed. Like we have be shielded and be invisible. Both of these right now are only on backpacks. You equip either the shield backpack or the invisibility pack, and you activate it. And what we do instead, though, is in the code we just set whether or not shielded or invisible is true, and then I update the consistency of these earlier. Okay, you're done. This used to be worse. This is like an example of an area I cleaned up, but like this is still inconsistent because this one is update invisibility implementation and this one's just update shields. Like why is this one a blueprint native event and this one isn't implemented in blueprint at all? And there is no there's no good reason. Like they should both probably be blueprint native events so the artist can go in and blueprint later and modify it on the fly pretty easily, like to add more behaviors to what like if you go invisible, maybe they want sparks to fly up, or that would be a design choice. And that's fine for invisibility, but what about shields? Like you don't have a clear indication of shields except the creation of the mesh. And if they wanted to make more complex art for that, it doesn't really support that. So just an example of class issues. Improve inventory and fix annoying inventory bugs. When you spawn, it's like kind of random what weapon will be in your hands for some reason, like because they're replicated and they're not, it's just whatever the last weapon you received over the network when you spawn is usually the one that shows up, and that's usually the last weapon in inventory. Really ideally, like we would have more control over that. Other things like when you use a deployable inventory station. That's a bug. What the heck? Alright, so I threw down a deployable inventory station. Now when I use it, my weapon is working. Okay, that's not what I expected. That's because I'm not on a server. Now I'm on a server. And my name is my desktop name. That's not secure. you, Simon, for adding saving to... Okay, so you see all that, like, you gave me my last weapon, which is the blaster. Now, if I throw it on this inventory and I use it... Now, what this does is it deletes all my inventory and re-adds it, and then with whatever specific inventory I wanted. But for some reason, it doesn't update what weapon attachment is, so I can't shoot. You see this? It doesn't even think I have a weapon selected. Like, which is really bad in the user experience. Now I can just switch weapons really quickly. Now they all work. But you could be in a fight and you get out and you want to shoot and you can't shoot. You have to switch right away. Or you have to switch once, I mean, to get it to work. The specific weapon you want. We also have issues where the weapon doesn't show up when you spawn for the first time, or when you see other players spawn, their weapons are invisible and they're actually floating invisible in the middle, not invisible, in the middle of the map. We have a bunch of at hacks and at to-dos throughout the code base. Let me see if I can see what some of those are. Current project, at to-do. That one's not important. So basically the idea is that we want to reinvestigate a lot of these to-dos. I actually don't want to think about any of these right now. There's a bunch of like random things. That one was me. So we have a bunch of these things that we put at to-do nodes, basically reminding us later to do these things, and what really happens is that we just forget about them anyway, and because they're usually low priority. But we want to clean up a lot of these because it ends up cluttering and potentially affecting later features. Show hide mouse cursor management. This one is annoying. I have to think long and hard about this one. The way we show and hide the cursor is just all over the place. We just use this bool that Unreal Engine has exposed called show mouse cursor, and we turn it on or off. Well, what happens if you accidentally get in a state where you're in the game and it's showing the mouse cursor? Like, how do you make it hide it again? This is a thing that annoys me in other games. Like, I remember Crysis had this sometimes where the mouse cursor wouldn't go away. In DX10 when you alt-tabbed. And it's not a simple thing to fix, but it's easier to manage if you like have a system that actually manages it other than just a flat variable that's like on or off. Like we have to turn it on when we show this. Like say wait, and then login space, okay. Okay, say I want to kick a player, like, I have this awful system right now where I show the dialogue, I show the mouse in the game, like, the input's still working, the mouse is still showing, and then once I kick the player or hit cancel, it hides the mouse. I have to click twice actually, once to get connected, and then that disconnects the movement, and then once more to cancel, or click, and then I have to click again. Well, that's an editor thing. So I want to go over making that probably managed in the player controller or the HUD, where we turn it on or off. But like you have to call function to turn it on or off, and maybe that manages like who has permission to, what class currently has permission to show the mouse, and when it should be deactivated. Similar to how pause works actually in the engine, where pause will the UI is amazing, like, but we have to, you know, make it worse before we can ship the game. So anyway, separate menus from HUD. Okay, this is a simple one. Well, not super simple, but right now we have two menus, one in-game, one main menu. They're the same menu, they just have a little bit different things tweaked on them. And the one in-game is thrown on top of our HUD widget right here. You can see here's the in-game menu. I can hide it, and there's our crazy ass HUD. Like, this in-game menu doesn't need to be in the HUD. It should be managed in the same way the entire HUD is managed separately by the player controller or by the HUD class. And the same goes for the chat widget. This guy, he's connected to the HUD. The HUD gets created and destroyed every match. So we want to eject this from here so that we can have a persistent chat. Like, have you ever played a game that has a persistent chat? And that also will make it easier to manage the chat separately, like for calling functions on it or whatnot, rather than having to navigate through the HUD class, the HUD widget, and then the chat widget. So that's these two tasks. All right, target components. This is IFF stuff. I can't believe you guys have listened to 40 minutes of me talking about this. You guys are suckers. It's usually more entertaining when you guys are talking. I'm all alone. I don't know how YouTubers do it, where they have playthroughs or talking to themselves. I always find that cringeworthy. Like, the idea that in a playthrough, that when they're reacting the way they're reacting, they don't react like that, like when they're not on camera. So they're trying to interact with people that are watching their video, but they're watching it later. But then also that opens up a philosophical discussion, because like Twitch has a 30-second delay, so chat interaction is already delayed in Twitch. YouTube is delayed up until like you release the video with comments and just... So anyway, like, is it really different if I'm talking to myself right now and theoretically interacting with this vacant chat than a YouTuber that I judge for having over-the-top reactions when nobody's there but themselves? Don't know. Okay, so target components are things we add to classes to help manage what the IFF for that class should look like. You can see here's a target component we specify that its scene component, basically the target component, is going to be associated with something in the scene, and in this case it would be the character mesh that is invisible here because this is a base class, it's not an actual implementation. So I'm yawning. I'm sitting in my office with a plate of grilled bacon. Calling around twice just to see what was shaking. It's lazy Sunday and lazy Scran. So we have the light character IFF here. Look how simple this class is. It's target type, light character. The class itself has more characters than anything inside of it. It literally just says what the icon is. But there are other examples of this is more complex. Like gameplay assets, base assets, generator, target type generator. Like the generator has multiple states, so there's the base one, full. This one called icon height, which I'll get to in a second. Disabled icon, health at 66% icon, and health at 33% icon. This is we also show the health bar. This is just a way to show, kind of a cute way to show, I guess, what kind of damage the generator is taking. If we look at the target input itself, we also have this visible flag that determines whether or not it's going to be shown. You can do this with, where do we use this? I don't remember right now. These are the important parts. So why do I want to reinvestigate this? Well, here we have draw IFFs in the HUD, and we do a few things, and the two main things are we iterate every actor in the world, figure out if they have a target interface, get their target component, and if they have it, the target component determines if they have an IFF. We do all this like super ridiculous class-specific stuff, like cast a character, cast to blah blah blah. This is all determining whether or not we're going to have an IFF, or if we do have an IFF, what the render time is, like if it was last shown, if it needs to fade out. Then we iterate over all the IFFs that we just gathered up in this first loop. This is a for loop over the actors. Now that determines what IFFs we have. Now we have another for loop that iterates over all those IFFs that we just checked. You might think this is inefficient, but it makes sense because IFFs may already exist and be added, or may have time changes that need to be managed separately. I mean, you can do all this stuff in here, but then you have this for loop is just even bigger and less manageable and harder to read. So anyway, we recast for the target interface. We get the target component, we get the scene component, and then we go do more class specific things. Like if it's a character, we do blah blah blah. If it's an asset, like a base asset or deployable asset, we do specific things. And if it's anything else, we do more specific things within there. A lot of this stuff could be managed and should be managed by the target component. Like draw IFS, we should not be hard coding so much stuff. And in fact, I have idea of, like right now we just take the target component and then we do other stuff like draw health bars based on what classes. Like I have an idea that I want to pursue where we have multiple components, each for different types of IFFs, like, or for like the health bar, the player name, like those would be all separate components that you throw on here. And then you could like say their order and whatnot. So what that might look like is that we have this target component that is a, what's it called, a primitive. It's just an actor component. So an actor component doesn't, by itself, does not exist in like the virtual space. Like when I click on it, it doesn't show up anywhere in this viewport. If I click on this, it shows up in the viewport. So right now, what this leads to is like I have a target component, and then on like my generator or on any of my base assets, I want to move the icon up or down, like to be above the player head here maybe or whatever. So I have to add another variable called height where I just type in a number. Like what if I could just like slide it up or down instead, like here. So that an artist instead of a programmer could come in and manage that more intuitively. Like in the code, when we do a draw health bar or whatever on the character, we basically try to get the player's head location, like to put the thing above their head. Like a lot of stuff like this this just makes this entire draw IFFs thing big and ugly. It goes from 486 to 921, so it's a little less than 500 lines, when really like we could break a lot of this out into separate components and have those components themselves manage how the things are managed. Manage how the things are drawn, sorry. And another thing that we have with components are the target interfaces. Like we throw this on top of like classes. You add this interface to a class in order to easily get the target component and check whether or not it's alive, as power requires power. Like this is all stupid. I added these three things. This part too is annoying. So how do we change this? Like again, like if the is alive stuff is for handling whether or not like we show how we show like the IFF, like for drawing like the health bar or like the player icon or whatever. Like if we just made a separate IFF component, that could be class specific. Like you could say like, oh, here's the get health function, like to tell whether or not it's alive. We could just have an interface that's a lot simpler that is for things that can be destroyed, like destroyable objects, like or killable objects. So let's start with one of these tasks. Organized class. Which one would be fun to watch? And fun is an oh so relative term here. A lot of these just require a lot of research and time. That's not something that can be done on stream. Should be done before a stream. But I've also been working towards upgrading the engine again. Let's just work on these two guys. They're pretty simple. Okay, right here we have a bunch of hard-coded stuff. Like what class is the HUD, the menu, replay controller. What I want to do is specify those things in the blueprint for the blueprint implementation. Why? All right, so this is even used. We specify IFF font, audio things for the HUD, the HUD widget class that creates this widget that has all the HUD stuff in it. Wait, wrong class. Okay. So what I should do here is add. Oh, and then also, I have two different IFF categories. That's confusing. Anyway, we want to add. We want to remove these hard-coded versions to declutter this. We want to specify more things, or we want to, okay, so what I mean by specify more things, I mean give more control over more things to the HUD. So right here, this in-game menu class is only used when we're iterating over the HUD to find it. Like we just go through each widget in the HUD's widget tree and find the in-game menu and then cache it off. Like, we're really, it's not part of the HUD. Like, I should just have in menu equals create widget user widgets not showing up. Okay, so what I've done here is potentially break shit. I create the in-game menu instead of having the widget itself create it, so we'll remove it. We'll remove this. Okay, we're no longer searching for it. Okay, we're gonna restart the editor to test this. Something is not running. Come on, Millie. Compiling. Trying to get my cat. I think she's wary of treats. Hi. She tried to run under the bed again because she thinks that when I'm gonna give her a treat that she's gonna be like put in a kennel or something, or in whatever a cage thing is called. She's a little tired right now from moving to a new apartment. Right, stay right there. Benji has done sound design stream before, but they don't. They're like the same amount of fun as coding, maybe less. See the kitty cam. Come on, hey. Don't be such a scaredy cat. Where are you? There was a stream before though. It's on YouTube. Yeah, you'd have to go to our streams on our YouTube channel. What are you doing down there? I can't even see her right now. I can see her on the preview for my Twitch stream though. I just spilled water. You know what? Hey, hey. Oh, I just scared her. Alright. Let's see how our in-game menu works now. If I could see it. She went back under the bed. Nice. Cool. Okay, so the menu seems to be working the same. Now it's just been separated. It still is created in the HUD though. Making that persistent. I don't know if that's worth it, but we want to do that with the chat widget, so this is terrible. Basically right now the chat widget, we do all through Blueprint. We just call this HUD object, we call start chat, and that just finds the chat widget from the HUD all in Blueprint, and then sets the focus. And when you set focus on it, and this isn't a built-in set focus, this is one that I made that basically just sets the text for if you're talking to team or all, and then sets keyboard focus. When we remove this from the HUD, you won't be able to use it in the menu yet because this is not managed. We don't have a controller class. Oh shit, the kitty came off since she's not there. Alright, so chat widget. Disable. How do you quit? Okay, so if we move the HUD to the controller, it's a bit tricky to, we might have to hard code getting that. And actually the controller isn't in the right place either. because the controller is actually not persistent, but a widget can be. What is persistent? I gotta think real quick. Okay, so game instance is persistent for all clients. Basically, when you start the game up, it creates a game instance. And we need to, every time we load a level or whatever, we need to set that the player's player controller to control over the HUD widget. We need to set the owner of that chat widget, I mean, to the player controller. This is problematic because the player controller gets created let's see where this is created. So what I've done is set a breakpoint in post-initialized components. We will run the game. This will get set as soon as our player controller is created for both the server and the client. Okay, so this is the server side. And you can tell this because if you go to watch one, role is role authority, okay? Now if I hit run again, it gets called on it should not be. So that's not the place we can do it, because when it gets created, it doesn't know its role yet. Doing this test properly, okay, so the whole point of all this stuff is to undo messes we've made trying to get things done quickly. And I'm afraid that's what I'm going to do right now. Like, really what I should do is implement our own version of the game viewport. This is extendable. Let's see another example. Like, maybe the chat widget should be handled in a game viewport. And when is set player called? Set player. There's no way I can do this task on stream properly. I mean, that's true of a lot of tasks, honestly. You think something's simple and then you, when you dive in, you realize it's not. Okay, we're looking at You guys can just investigate with me right now. We're basically gonna look at what Unreal Tournament does, since this is open source by Epic, in order to help other developers. Like, what's the best way to use their code base? Is what if I'm asking myself that question, like what would Epic do with their own code because they know it the best? Well, then you look at it. Now that doesn't always mean they do something that like I agree with or will follow or will do the same thing, but it can be quite helpful. What do they do with their viewport? They add widgets. This is interesting. Very interesting. This is not at all relevant. This is this was not what I was looking for. Okay, sorry, I'm not gonna explain that right now. What in God's name is going on here? They handle reconnecting in the viewports? What? Yeah, that's strange. So I'm looking at the player context of a widget, how this gets set. I'm trying to understand the widget workflow better before I make a decision how I do this. Don't want that. You create a widget. You rebuild a widget. Okay, so I just have to set player context. Or more specifically, I can do set owning local player, because there's a local player persistent. Player context is valid. Get player controller. Holy code, yeah, there's a lot of code. And I'm trying to figure out where a local player is created. Just use a lot of results. No, that'd be a pretty fast clock, right? That's a little faster than a second. That's my fan. It's... I lower the fan speed. What code base am I in now? So the viewport seems to manage the local player. Or actually the game instance does. Create local player. Does this get cached off? Add local player. Local players. All right. Actually, I really do like going through large code bases. I mean, not to shill, because they're not paying me to, but Visual Assist X makes it so much easier. I mean, it's either like if we were with Unity, I would not have access to all this code. So I wouldn't know how it really works. It's all like a black box, which does not help me understand if it's not well documented. And it's pretty well documented, but it's not always, like, for very advanced things, it's not well documented. So you just want to see exactly how things work or where things go without having to Google and Stack Overflow like crazy. Like, I almost never use Stack Overflow, honestly, when I'm in the engine, because I can just look through their code. It tells me a lot. Notify player added. This is kind of ugly. So local players are persistent. We don't yet have a local player class. Ugh. Does a local player know what their player controller is? I mean, yeah. There's a lot of places, like right here, it's really well commented. There's some places that it's like, what's this supposed to mean? It really depends on the programmer and what year it was implemented. Like if it's old code, different programmers, whatever. I don't know who specifically programmed specific things in this specific engine, but well, I do use the Unreal docs sometimes, but those aren't really thorough enough for more advanced things, honestly. Like, let's try to look up something for this right now. Well, I mean, that's a good idea right now. Let's look at Unreal docs. It's a problem of what to search. Like currently I'm just investigating how the entire engine is organized, and the best way to see that, or not the entire engine, but how this set of features in the engine are organized, and the best way to see that is to look at the code. If we go look at the Unreal docs, maybe not search something, but instead look at this engine features. Okay, so we can look at UMG. This is not helpful for programming for UMG at all. I don't think there's any code on programming UMG stuff. like once after you've been working in it for a while, you get a pretty intuitive sense of what's going to be in Unreal Docs and what isn't. What is going to be in Unreal Docs are beginner stuff, but not just beginner stuff. Also, things that every game uses. What we're doing is not something every game uses. Like, this is just a specific idea I had in my head for how our chat widget should work. And so in order to figure out where it's best implemented, I'm investigating classes that I know Unreal Engine has and that I know are relevant to this. But like, it's hard to describe why I know that. It's just after working in the engine so much, you have a better idea of where things go, why things are. And so what I do is I just start searching through the code and trying to see what stuff I can take advantage of. Not what I want. Okay, can I refine this? To we're getting close. So the server creates the player controller for a new connection. A new connection is made every time the map changes. We're trying to figure out how to associate the player controller with the local, how that association works, so that we can have persistent chat for now. But this also, see, this is why we do this. Like, this could be relevant to so many other systems in our game. Handle client player travel. Trying to figure out where the player controller gets set for the local player. And I'll be frank with you guys right now, I don't remember what exactly I'm doing. Like, or to be more accurate, I guess, if we really think about it. Like, I've lost track exactly of where I am in the code base. Like, I know I'm in local player, I know blah blah blah, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, I don't remember if I wanted the local player or the player controller to have have management of the HUD or have management of the chat widget. But that's something I wasn't sure of before, so that's why I'm investigating all this code. I'm trying to figure out where this best goes, so I'm trying to understand the relationship between the player controller and the local player. Okay, so that was confusing. So the local player controller gets nuked, like it gets nullified. The reference does, and then we call set player on the player controller, and then that resets the player controller to that specific, or it sets the cat's under the bed. I'm sorry. She's really tired right now from the new move, from all the exciting changes. Could just make the stream a little more exciting, I guess. Hacker tag. You're gibberish. Okay, so I could override set player to give the controller, the player controller, access to the chat widget. Ugh. This is so useless. So we're gonna override set local player. I'm in the wrong place. So I guess I should talk out loud what I'm thinking about, rather than just staring off into blank space and thinking like I normally do. I'm thinking about the implications of having the chat widget always available. It's super convenient, but performance-wise, there are potential issues because it would get more and more full over time. We could just set an arbitrary limit where we start deleting messages. What I was thinking about more specifically was setting a priority for messages so that only like lower priority messages get deleted as the widget starts to fill up to its whatever maximum we set. I was also trying to think if there's anything I knew about or have seen related to the performance of widgets. The best bet is probably just to limit the number of messages to something reasonable, like 100, because this isn't really a super social. Yeah, I just doxed you, man. You just got doxed. I just muted Slack now. So let's stop. Let's start wrapping this stream up. This amazingly progress-filled stream. Yes. Okay, so it doesn't seem like a lot got done, and honestly, a lot did not get done. It's hard to do a lot on stream, but a lot of I figured out things. So I know what I'm going to do when I actually sit down and really go at this rather than trying to talk it out on stream. What I'm going to do now is open up our game, just play us out, talk about some bugs maybe. It's kind of a weird time. Might not be a lot of players, although, I mean, it's not a lot of players in general. These are great names. Those are my stepbrothers, by the way. King Dong and Pornography. Oh, another thing, if we made the chat persistent, it's not that simple, because then we have to decide, like, when does it show up if it's on the main menu. Like, we shouldn't be showing it if we have the server thing out. That requires more design thought. So if it's persistent, does it show up in the loading screen? I like that Overwatch does that, or it shows in the loading screen. There's things we want to do with the... Okay, so you can see up at the top there's a message, dive at the flag. Jordan's in. I'm not very good at... I'm not the best at this game, even remotely. And I'm even worse when I'm being watched and trying to talk about issues with the game. He got kicked, so it was a kick and not... It was a kick and not, what was I gonna say? He got kicked and not just like disconnected. Has that been reported on the forums? Wait, don't kill me, Jordan. I want to see your shoes. Okay, we have to spectate Jordan to see his shoes. Look at those feet. What's wrong with this kid? You're an embarrassment, Jordan. Those big ass feet. Everybody else is normal. You know what they say about guys with big feet? Tiny brains. It's an epidemic. Alright, let's... I want to look at this bug real quick that you just talked about, Immortal Chaos. That would kill your pickup pretty quickly. So the flag disappeared. It looks like the flag is only tossed on death. Like only when they're killed. But I thought we had code to handle this if they're disconnected. We'll look at this real quick, and then we'll wrap up the stream. This is why I need a better computer. Jesus. Alright, so the flag is definitely broken. Let's see if it resets. That's really weird though, the disconnect worked fine. Definitely make sure this ends up on the forums. Use that crazy convergence when that first shot. Look at that, look how it's shooting up to the top left. That's so bad. Alright, sweet. Well, if it's reported, it ends up in QA, and we'll get to that. That's basically the next 3 weeks. We're gonna be spending doing what I've been doing on stream now, and that's reviewing stuff, but without having to talk it through, and then fixing a lot of bugs. Basically, we're trying to make the game less fucked in its current state, so that once we start to expand, like add vehicles or add other game modes, we don't, I don't know what that sound was, it was disturbing. We don't get stuck or make things, or break things in ways that are unexpected. Alright, so that ends this stream. Thank you all for coming out to the interwebs to watch. I am sorry there was not a lot of action, but I don't really know what you expected in a coding stream. My cat probably thought a vacuum cleaner was sneaking up behind her. She's so afraid of those. Anyway, we will be back on stream. I don't know the stream schedule, but at least next Sunday. But I think we're doing streams on Friday as well, like Davey doing map stuff maybe. Anyway, there was not going to be a lot of communication from me for the next 2-3 weeks, unless it's bug related. I might stream again though. I don't know. Depends on who we need to stream. But for now, be prepared for the next version of the game. Point 18, which won't be out until the end of the month at earliest. And if you guys don't have instant access, just hang in there, I guess. Watch the streams, play Overwatch, or whatever floats your boat. So I am rambling. I have to find my obs thing and shut down. I will see you guys next time.